My beloved masters, composed by Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharti Gosvāmī Mahārāja. Śrī Śrīmad Bhakti Kumuda Sant Gosvāmī Mahārāja. His early days and joining the mutt. Śrī Śrīmad Bhakti Kumuda Sant Gosvāmī Mahārāja appeared in the village of Narma, West Bengal, and was given the name Radha Ramana Das after his family's worshipable deity, Shri Radha Raman. His father, Shri Vaikuntanath Rai, was a Jamindar, landlord, as well as a practicing astrologer and Ayurvedic doctor. Being highly impressed by his first encounter with Gaudiya Math preachers, he invited them to stay for some days in his home. After regularly extending such invitations to devotees, Shri Vaikuntanath Rai became closely acquainted with the Gaudiya Math. The preachers of Shri Gaudiya Math were so pleased with Shri Vaikuntanath Rai's service and hospitality that they would stay only at his house during their visits to his town. Because he was not particularly attached to the opulence enjoyed by landowners in that era, he would spend most of his time treating patients and calculating astrological charts. He rendered profuse, wholehearted assistance to the sannyasis and brahmacharis, collecting funds for Shri Navadvip Dham Parikrama held by Shri Chaitanya Math. He had a potent ambition for seeking his spiritual welfare, and so despite his worldly opulence and landowner affluence, he never hesitated to personally collect donations. He firmly believed that the associates of sadhus is the only means of attaining well-being in this human life. Śrī Śrīmad Bhakti Hridaya Van Gosvāmī Mahārāja and Shri Pranavanand Brahmachari, later known as Śrī Śrīmad Bhakti Pramod Puri Gosvāmī Mahārāja, once visited Shri Vaikuntanath Rai's home to collect provisions for the upcoming Navadvip Dham Parikrama. Shri Vaikuntanath Rai offered them 108 rupees worth of silver coins in pranami. And Shri Radha Raman Das and his brother Krishna Das received the good fortune to serve them. During his 5-day stay, Shri Pranavananda Brahmachari observed that Shri Radha Raman Das spent the majority of his time sitting peacefully in the temple room, either hearing Harikatha or performing Kirtan. One day, after Shri Pranavananda Brahmachari sang Jiva Jago, he and the boy Shri Radha Raman Das discussed the meaning of the Kirtan. Shri Pranavananda Brahmachari was amazed to see an ardent love for Katha and Kirtan in such a young boy. He said to Shri Vaikuntanath Rai, "Your son's behavior is rather atypical for a child. His natural attraction to spiritual matters amazes me. He would be greatly pleased to have him stay in our mutt. There, he can gain both spiritual knowledge and a regular education. Will you allow him to come with us?" Shri Vaikuntanath Rai replied, "If he agrees to your proposal, you may surely take him with you. I have no objections." Shri Pranavananda Brahmachari asked Shri Radha Raman Das, "Will you come with us to live with the sannyasis and brahmacharis in our Kolkata mutt, where you can receive both spiritual and material education?" "Yes," Shri Radha Raman Das immediately answered. "There, you will have to serve sadhus all of the time, just as you are doing here," Shri Pranavananda Brahmachari told him. "That will only increase my good fortune," he replied with a youthful enthusiasm. In this way, Shri Radharaman Das agreed and accompanied the two visiting Vaishnavas back to the mutt at 1 Ulta Danga Road, Kolkata, which at the time was a rented apartment. Shri Radharaman Das' mother, Shri Ratnamayi Devi, was a considerably devotional woman. He was her third and youngest son and had been raised amid wealth. Before he left for the mutt, she appropriately instructed him about his future stay in the austere atmosphere of his guru's residence. She hugged him, kissed his forehead, and said with tears in her eyes, "Baba, your purpose is noble. Make accomplishing this purpose your life's only goal." Shri Vaikuntanath Rai accompanied his son to Kolkata, where he had darshan of Srila Prabhupada and talked to him about the boy. Srila Prabhupada asked Shri Radharaman Das, "So, Khokha?" Footnote: Bengali colloquialism for boy similar to the English word kiddo. "Will you able to stay here?" Yes, the boy said. "I will definitely be able to stay." Upon joining the mutt, the boy enrolled in a nearby school, the New Indian High School, and thus spent his time between his services in the mutt and his studies. Sometimes Shri Radharaman Brahmachari washed the clothes of the accomplished sannyasis and brahmacharis, and sometimes he cleaned their rooms. Other times he cleaned the temple room with great delight. The devotees of the mutt were captivated by the boy's enthusiasm and sincere inclination to serve. Also, Shri Radharaman's voice was very sweet. He would sit with the devotees and sing kirtan with them, heightening their ecstasy. One day, after Shri Radharaman Brahmachari had completed his studies at the New Indian High School, Srila Prabhupada told the sannyasi and brahmachari disciples crowded around him, "When I see how sincerely and quickly this boy performed his services, it occurs to me that if we were to spend his life in the mutt, I could delegate many services to him without worry. But since he is young and has just finished his schooling, it is up to his parents whether he continues to stay here." Sometime later, Shri Vaikuntanath Rai visited the Kolkata mutt and asked his son, "Do you want to continue your studies? If you want to acquire a higher education, then I am happy to talk to Srila Prabhupada and make arrangements for you to do so." Shri Radharaman Brahmachari said, "I have heard from Srila Prabhupada, Jad Vidya Jato Mayar Vaibhav. Material knowledge is simply the opulent manifestation of Bhagwan's illusory potency." Also, Thakur Bhaktivinoda has stated in Sharanagati, "Vidyar Gaurav Brahmi Deshe Deshe Dhan Uparjan Kori." In the pride of having acquired worldly knowledge, I simply wandered from one country to another, accumulating material wealth. Furthermore, Shri Chaitanya Bhagavat Adi Khand 12.49 mentions, "Pade keno loka Krishna bhakti janivare, sei jadi nahilo tabe vidyaraki kare." Why do people study? In order to know Krishna bhakti. But what is the use of acquiring knowledge if that devotion does not arise? Shri Radharaman Brahmachari continued, "Because I have heard and taken to heart the true purport of these statements and other similar declarations found in Scripture, I am determined not to waste my invaluable time in this human life on acquiring higher education, material comforts, or earning a livelihood. I want to obtain spiritual knowledge and thereby fulfill the true purpose of living in the mutt." After Shri Radharaman Brahmachari consulted with Shri Pranavananda Brahmachari regarding his future, he decided that according to his current interest and inclination, it would be best to study Sanskrit under Srila Prabhupada's disciple Shri Vyakrantirtha Gaur Das Pandit in order to comprehend the Gaudiya Vaishnava scriptural canon. Shri Radharaman Brahmachari submitted this proposal to Srila Prabhupada, who gave his permission. Thus Shri Radharaman Brahmachari relocated from Kolkata to Shri Chaitanya Mutt in Sridham Mayapur. Sometime later, when Srila Prabhupada held a grand event to showcase the Shat Shiksha Pradarshani exhibition in Sridham Mayapur in the year 1930, he ordered Shri Radharaman Brahmachari, who was then absorbed in studying Sanskrit grammar, to dedicate himself to the services related to the exhibition. As per Srila Prabhupada's instruction, Shri Radharaman Brahmachari would deliver scripturally sound explanation to the guests regarding the exhibition's many displays. Unbeknownst to him, Srila Prabhupada listened in on these explanations, and when Shri Radharaman Brahmachari's mother, father, and two elder brothers came to see the exhibition, Srila Prabhupada praised the boy profusely. He told Shri Vaikuntanath Rai and Shri Ratnamai Devi, "Your youngest son has accrued substantial qualification for someone his age. At present, he is studying Sanskrit grammar and sincerely serving the residents of the Dham. At the exhibition, Sri Radharaman Brahmachari spoke with his family member for some time about Srila Prabhupada's glories, the legacy of Srila Prabhupada's teachings, the speciality of the Gaudiya Math, and the profound purpose of the exhibition themes. Then he requested them to invite good fortune to their lives by taking shelter of Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. Shri Vaikuntha Rai and Shri Ratnamai Devi were rendered speechless by their amazement with their youngest son. They decided then and there that they and their 3 sons would all become Srila Prabhupada's disciples. Srila Prabhupada showered his mercy on Shri Vaikuntha Rai, his wife Shri Ratnamai Devi, and their sons, Shri Radha Sham Rai, Shri Radha Vinod Rai, and Shri Radharaman Rai, by giving them all Harinam. He asked Shri Radharaman Brahmachari's parents, "Do you object to Radharaman continuing to stay in the mutt?" Shri Vaikuntha Rai and Shri Ratnamai Devi replied, "Please consider this boy as having been offered for the service of your lotus feet." His astuteness in service. According to the desire of Srila Prabhupada, the daily newspaper Dainik Nadya Prakash was printed from Mayapur. One day it so happened that there was no paper stock for the following day's issue, and the rainy weather was making it difficult to procure a new supply. Shri Pranavananda Brahmachari, the paper's editor at that time, informed Srila Prabhupada about the situation and asked him what to do. Srila Prabhupada asked, "Is there anybody who can bring paper from our Bhagavad press in Krishnanagar?" Shri Pranavananda Brahmachari mentioned, "Radharaman Brahmachari is here. I am certain he will go if you tell him." Srila Prabhupada then ordered Shri Radharaman Brahmachari to go, and the boy left immediately for Krishnanagar by bicycle. After riding a considerably far distance in the pouring rain, Shri Radharaman Brahmachari reached his destination. The devotees at Bhagavad Press bound the paper supply to the back of his bicycle. The knots they made, however, were quite loose, and the entire bundle of paper fell to the wet ground during his return journey. Shri Radharaman Brahmachari immediately removed his dhoti, which measured approximately 5 meters, and replaced it with his utriya, means upper cloth, which measured only 2 meters. Then, using the dhoti, he nicely bound the paper, secured it to the bike, and carefully brought it to Mayapur. Srila Prabhupada was informed of the situation once Shri Radharaman Brahmachari returned, and he praised the boy, acknowledging that although he was very young, he displayed great astuteness in a difficult situation. Receiving Mantra Diksha. When Srila Prabhupada saw for himself how skillful Shri Radharaman was during the Shat Shiksha Pradarshani exhibition in Sridham Mayapur, he included his name in the list of devotees he would send to Dhaka to hold an exhibition there. When Shri Radharaman Brahmachari found out about this, he appealed to Śrī Śrīmad Bhakti Vivek Bharti Gosvāmī Mahārāja. "My grammar studies have already been paused during the exhibition in Sridham Mayapur. If I go to Dhaka, they will practically cease altogether." When Srila Bharti Goswami Maharaj put the matter before Srila Prabhupada called for Shri Radharaman Brahmachari and told him, "To think we must first obtain some qualification before attempting to serve Shri Hari simply invites obstacles in our lives. Who knows what may happen in the time spent pursuing perfection? Our time in this human form of life is momentary. We cannot trust our breath will last. The rice paddy in the field must be dried while the sun is still shining. It is best to seize whatever opportunities for Hari Seva may arise. Your qualification will increase more by serving the Lord than by independently pursuing grammatical knowledge. Only a life led under guidance brings auspiciousness for a spiritual seeker residing in an ashram." Shri Radharaman Brahmachari took Srila Prabhupada's merciful instruction to heart and fixed it as the main instruction, guiding him to the path of spiritual welfare. Shri Radharaman Brahmachari was thus always faithfully preoccupied with various services, and in 1934, at Bad Bazaar Gaudiya Math in Kolkata, Srila Prabhupada granted Sri Radharaman Brahmachari Mantra Diksha. The praise and criticism of ordinary people is meant for their own sense enjoyment. The devotees of Sri Madhav Gaudiya Math in Dhaka once wrote to Srila Prabhupada requesting him to send a Kirtaniya for the Math. Knowing Sri Radharaman Brahmachari to be an exceptional Kirtaniya, Srila Prabhupada asked him if he could manage to make a journey on his own. Sri Radharaman Brahmachari confidently affirmed that he could, and accepting the order of his Gurudev, he departed for Dhaka, which required him to travel first by steamship and then by road. Being the first passenger to arrive on the steamship, Sri Radharaman Brahmachari took a seat next to one of his ship's windows. After some time, the ship slowly began to fill with passengers. Those who arrived after him told him, "Move over. Why are you sitting near the window anyway? You are a small child and can sit anywhere. Fresh air is required for old people. Why have you take this seat? Get up from here and go sit elsewhere." Another person commented, "Nowadays, people give birth to children and without accepting the responsibility for looking after them, leave them in the mud. These children then become sadhus due to their laziness and their aversion to work." After hearing these comments, Sri Radharaman Brahmachari quietly got up from his seat and stood near the ship's entrance so that no one would be bothered further. Seeing this, everybody became satisfied and remained peaceful. Approximately 10 minutes later, an announcement was broadcasted over the loudspeaker. "Everyone, please be attentive. The ocean is very rough today, and we have no control over the ship. We are in perilous danger. Anything can happen, so everyone please remember God and pray to Him for our safety." Hearing this, an old man who had previously complained about Sri Radharaman Brahmachari began to cry, lamenting, "My daughter is to be married soon, and I am carrying her dowry and wedding ornaments. If something happens to our ship, what will happen to my daughter's marriage? Everything will be ruined." Another passenger responded, "Didn't you hear the announcement? They are saying to remember God, so this is not the appropriate time to speak such things." The old man replied, "God will not listen to us because we never did his bhajan, but surely he will listen to this young sadhu. Although he is very young, he has understood the true value of life." After this, all the passengers who had previously complained about Sri Radharaman Brahmachari forcefully sat him down among them and requested him to pray for their safety. He replied, "I have heard from my Guru Maharaj that the Lord only hears the prayers of his surrendered devotees. As I am not yet surrendered to him, he will not even hear me, what to speak of fulfilling my requests. However, my Guru Maharaj has also mentioned that we should always perform Nam Sankirtan. Therefore, I can chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and all of you can repeat it in Kirtan. But I cannot guarantee that God will hear or save us." The passengers accepted his proposal and began to perform Kirtan. After some time, the ship safely arrived at its destination. Srila Sant Gosvāmī Mahārāja often mentioned this pastime, and in doing so, taught us that both the criticism and praise of ordinary people have absolutely no value. Therefore, we should never become affected by whatever people may speak. Such people praise and criticize only for their own sense enjoyment. On addressing Godbrothers and other Vaishnavas as Prabhu, one Sri Radharaman Brahmachari asked Srila Prabhupada why Godbrothers refers to each other as Prabhu, and Srila Prabhupada gave the following response. It is said, "Gurur sevak hai manne apnara." The servant of one's gurus is to be revered. According to this notion, we address all of our Godbrothers, both senior and junior, as Prabhu, so that we may cultivate a sense of being humbler than a blade of grass. If a person considered himself to be a Vaishnava and others to be junior or less advanced than him, he nurtures only mundane egotism. In the realm of spirituality, if we see each other as the servants of our Guru, the notion that another is inferior or less qualified than us will never enter our hearts. Then we will not have a chance to feel malice or disregard for others. This is the secret of addressing each other as Prabhu. If one wishes to relinquish gross egotism and become a servant of Shri Gurudev, one must not regard Shri Gurudev's servants in terms of senior and junior. As the scriptures state, Tad bhritya bhritya bhritasya bhrityam iti mam smara lokanatha. O Lord of the universe, I wish to forever remember that I am but the servant of the servant of the servant of your servant. We must deeply internalize this conception. In this way, Scripture ordains that the servants of Shri Guru and indeed all Vaishnava are to be addressed as Prabhu. His deep vision and concern for the residents of the mutt. One Shri Radharaman Brahmachari and Guru Maharaj, then known as Shri Hayagri Brahmachari, were staying in the Madras Gaudiya Mutt. Although they were brahmacharis and not sannyasis, they were accepted as experienced seniors because they sincerely followed Srila Prabhupada. During their stay, Shri Radharaman Brahmachari noticed that a particular brahmachari refused to mix with the other residents of the mutt and hardly spoke with anybody. He instead sought solitude wherever he could find it, just to focus on his reading and chanting. Sensing something suspicious about these activities, Shri Radharaman Brahmachari approached Shri Hayagri Brahmachari and expressed his concern, saying, Prabhu, although this brahmachari is chanting and reading a great deal and avoiding gossip, I feel something is wrong. Can you please investigate? Shri Hayagri Brahmachari understood the legitimate reason for Shri Radharaman Brahmachari's concern. He called for the brahmachari and asked him, I have heard that you do not associate with any other residents of the mutt. What to speak of joking with them or sitting with them to take prasad? Why is this? The brahmachari replied, I do not wish to become involved in gossip, and that is why I prefer to keep to myself. Shri Hayagri Brahmachari said, I think it would be better for you to sit with them and develop relationships. Try to lead your life in a natural way as the other residents of the mutt do. It is not a problem if you sometimes have to joke and engage in gossip with them. Why? Because there is something to learn in each and every activity of the devotees. Feeling utterly confused, the brahmachari replied, Prabhu, although you are very senior to me, you are instructing me to do the opposite of what I have heard from other senior Vaishnavas. I do not want you to feel as though I am challenging you, but Śrīmad Mahaprabhu has directed us not to listen to or speak gossip. But you are asking me to indulge in material talks with the brahmacharis if required. This is greatly puzzling. Shri Hayagri Brahmachari then explained himself. Listen properly, he said. Presently you are residing in this mutt only with your body and not with your mind. If you do heed my words, then after some time your body will also go from here. You will surely return to your home. But if you follow what I have suggested, at least you will continue to stay here by body, and then gradually your mind will come to stay in the mutt as well. Therefore be peaceful and please try to follow my advice. This instance shows that although Shri Radharaman Brahmachari was considerably young, he was Durdarshi, capable of seeing what will come in the future beyond the present circumstances. While ordinary persons hold an external conception of proper and improper conduct, the perception of those who are Durdarshis extend beyond external conduct. Such person can clearly see what is deep inside the hearts of others as well as what will become of them in the future. Both my Guru Maharaj and Shri Radharaman Brahmachari could ascertain that because this Brahmachari's mind was not fixed in being the servant of Shri Hari, Guru and the Vaishnavas, he would quickly tire of his rigorous sadhan and leave the mutt. Sometime later, that Brahmachari received a letter, but instead of having it sent to the mutt, he had the sender address it to a nearby Grasta family. Seeing that a letter had come for the resident of the mutt, that family explained the situation to Shri Hayagri Brahmachari and handed him the letter. Upon reading it, Śrī Brahmachari learned that the Brahmachari had previously sent a letter to his mother, informing her that he would soon return home and that she should therefore arrange both a job and a wife for him. The letter Śrī Brahmachari received was the mother's reply, in which she accepted the responsibility and told her son to return quickly. Shortly after the letter's arrival, the Brahmachari left the mutt. Although the Brahmachari displayed absolutely no visible indication of mental unrest while staying in the mutt, both Śrī Radharaman Brahmachari and my Guru Maharaj could understood the situation very clearly. Fortunately, due to impressions he received as a result of staying in the mutt, this Brahmachari later accepted the real truth and returned to the mutt around the age of 65. Remembering the Durdarshita of Srila Sant Goswāmī Mahārāja, he accepted sannyas from him some time after. His courage to accept the truth. Srila Prabhupada left this world shortly after the end of Śrī Radharaman Brahmachari's childhood. Śrī Radharaman Brahmachari's heart was broken upon seeing the regretful state of the Gaudiya Math organization in the wake of Srila Prabhupada's departure. Being still quite young, he felt it would be better to return to his family instead of enduring the regrettable situation in which he found himself. Thinking in this way, Śrī Radharaman Brahmachari expressed this desire to his father, Śrī Vaikuntanath Prabhu, who accepted his proposal and welcomed him home. Hearing the news of Śrī Radharaman Brahmachari's departure from the mutt, my Guru Maharaj arrived at his home and asked Śrī Vaikuntanath Prabhu, "You are the disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Even if your son is asking to return home, how can you allow it?" Śrī Vaikuntanath Prabhu replied, "Actually, I do not wish for him to leave the mutt, but at the same time I don't want him to be discouraged and think there is no one to support him due to his having chosen another path. I don't want him to feel abandoned or unentitled to his inheritance. For this reason, I have allowed him to return home. If you prefer him to remain a brahmachari and return to the mutt, then he can go with you if he agrees to it. I have no objection. In fact, I would be pleased by this." Guru Maharaj discussed the matter with Śrī Radharaman Brahmachari, who said, "Śrī Hari Prabhu, you have gone to so much trouble for me in coming to bring me back to the mutt. You have treated me like the best of the friends. I am indebted to your lotus feet for this. However, even if I agree to again live in the mutt and as a service to Śrī Hari become involved with the ongoing court case, I doubt I will be able to reconcile my concerns for the future of the mutt. Given the impression I have of how the residents of the mutt dealt with each other following Srila Prabhupada's disappearance, I do not found myself very eager to march back there. Please forgive me for this. I promise you that I will deeply evaluate all these matters soon." After Guru Maharaj left, Śrī Radharaman thought, "What have I done? I have foiled the plans of a Vaishnava who was concerned for my welfare and humiliated him by forcing him to turn back." Knowing that this would become an impediment to his bhajan, he spent the days that followed in regret, eating and sleeping only out of habit. After a few days, a particular scripture adage occurred to him: "Shubhasya shighram, ashubhasya kalharanam." Good deeds should be done immediately and bad deeds should be delayed. With this in mind, he presented himself before Guru Maharaj, who was then preaching in Midnapur. Guru Maharaj was so joyful and awestruck to see Śrī Radharaman Brahmachari's determination to dedicate his life to the service of Śrī Hari, Guru and Vaishnavas that he felt he should be awarded sannyas. Before Guru Maharaj was not a sannyasi at the time, he requested Śrī Śrīmad Bhakti Yajavar Gosvāmī Mahārāja to award sannyas to Śrī Radharaman Brahmachari. Srila Yajavar Gosvāmī Mahārāja accepted the proposal and awarded him sannyas at the Khirchor Gopinath temple in Ramuna. Since that time, he has been known as Śrī Śrīmad Bhakti Kumuda Sant Gosvāmī Mahārāja. We had never heard about this incident from anyone, not even Guru Maharaj. until Srila Sant Goswami Maharaj himself spoke about it during Braj Mandal Parikrama in Vrindavan and later at Sri Chaitanya Gauriya Math in Chandigarh. Srila Maharaj would often declare, I have tremendously benefited by the affectionate guidance of Pujyapad Madhav Maharaj. He saved my life. What would have happened to me had I stayed at home? He saved me from great danger. Srila Sant Goswami Maharaj and my Guru Maharaj were among the many disciples of Srila Prabhupada who stayed in Shyamanand Gauriya Math in Midnapur, West Bengal. Although Guru Maharaj collected many donations and purchased the property for constructing the math, he did everything in the name of Srila Sant Goswami Maharaj and not his own. Such was the affection he had for him. Srila Sant Goswami Maharaj used to say, I am not the master of anything or anyone. I am only a servant. As long as my godbrothers accept my service, I will give it. Should they no longer be interested in receiving it, I will stay with whosoever agrees to give me shelter. His magnetic Harikatha and Kirtan. Many people would come to the Math just to hear Srila Sant Goswami Maharaj's beautiful Harikatha and Kirtans. Once, he accompanied Guru Maharaj to Jammu with a preaching party. Although he sang Kirtans in Bengali, a language the people of Jammu do not understand, many people were nonetheless attracted. Everyone in attendance appreciated his Kirtans so much that they would repeatedly request him to sing, and so he sang a Kirtan about Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Varna Chora Kotha Matai Chalve Re. O you who have stolen the complexion of Srimati Radharani, you have intoxicated us. Where now do you wish to take us? After returning from the daily Nagar Sankirtans held during the program, he would sing the following song, which dripped with rasa as it emanated from his lotus lips. Nagar Brahmiya Amar Gaur Elo Ghare, Gaur Elo Ghare Amar Nitai Elo Ghare. After roaming throughout the towns and villages, my Gaura has come back home. Gaura has come back home, and my Nitai has come back home. Dhula Jhari Sachi Mata Gaur Kole Kare, Dhula Jhari Padmavati Nitai Kole Kare. Brushing off the dust from his body, Mother Sachi takes Gaura upon her lap. Brushing off the dust from his body, Mother Padmavati takes Nitai upon her lap. As the preaching party for that trip was quite large, 2 programs were held each day. Although Srila Maharaj was not proficient in speaking Hindi, his Harikatha was simple and easily understandable for all, and it therefore attracted many people. Honoring the requests of residents of Jammu, he performed Kirtan and spoke Harikatha twice daily. His strictness and gravity. Whether he was attending a meeting, arranging a festival, or sitting as chairman of an assembly, Srila Sant Goswami Maharaj was always extremely punctual. We have observed that if he was presiding over a function and someone spoke Harikatha beyond the allotted time, Srila Maharaj would immediately interrupt him by terminating his address. If the speaker was senior to Srila Maharaj, he would politely but firmly request him to stop speaking. But with juniors, he would grab them by the ears and order them to sit down. Srila Sant Goswami Maharaj did not tolerate inattentiveness. If he observed anyone, whether a brahmachari, sannyasi, lady, child or whosoever, doing anything besides sincerely hearing during the time of Harikatha, he would reprimand that person without giving them a chance to speak, saying, Please leave, you do not know the etiquette of sitting in an assembly of Vaishnavas. Once a Mataji came to hear Harikatha with her grandson, who was approximately 1 or 1.5 years old. When the boy started crying loudly during the Katha, she tried to pacify him. Seeing this, Srila Sant Goswami Maharaj told her, Do not stay in this assembly any longer. Only attentive people who give first priority to Harikatha are welcome here, and not anybody else. You think the care of your grandson to be the utmost importance and Harikatha to be secondary? Do you think this is a place where people can sit and do as they please? Our time is very precious, and we have no interest in wasting it please leave immediately. If Srila Maharaj ever saw a person who had dedicated his life to brahmacharya fail to honor the required rules and regulations, such as shaving on Purnima, he would chastise the person, saying, "Why have you accepted the clause of a brahmachari? You are only cheating yourself. Stop trying to ruin your life. Simply follow the teachings of our Guru Varga. Even if you do not understand the purpose of each and every principle, you will still be benefited by following them." Establishing Siddhanta in few words. Once Srila Sant Gosai Maharaj hosted a function at his Behala Mutt in Kolkata and invited many different guests to speak. Among them were a number of disciples of Srila Prabhupada, like Śrī Śrīmad Bhakti Shroti Gosvāmī Mahārāja, as well as Srila Prabhupada's grand disciples from various mutts, such as Pujyapad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj and myself. Also in attendance was an old Brahmin university professor from a local college. His face displayed a lack of interest during the gathering, and when it came time for him to deliver his lecture, he spoke Mayavad philosophy, declaring, "Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahm," along with several other Mayavad slogans. After finishing his speech, the professor rejoined the other speakers on stage and continued to look visibly disinterested during any subsequent speeches. When the time came for Srila Sant Gosai Maharaj to give his speech, Srila Maharaj asked, "Are you Brahm?" The professor answered, "Yes, I am." Srila Maharaj asked, "Then is it true you do not undergo vikar, means change or transformation?" "Correct, I do not," the professor replied. Then with one hand gripping his sannyas danda and the other in a clenched fist, Srila Sant Gosai Maharaj abruptly rose from his chair and charged at the Mayavadi professor, mimicking as if he were going to beat him. Viscerally startled, the old man flinched in sheer terror. Srila Maharaj repeated this threatening motion 2 more times, and in both instances the man recoiled in fear. Srila Maharaj declared, "You are not Brahm. Brahm is nirvikar. It never undergoes change and never reacts to anything. No one can harm Brahm, and therefore Brahm will never react in any situation. By becoming fearful just now, you revealed to the entire assembly that you are not Brahm." In so few words, Srila Sant Gosai Maharaj exposed the old Brahmin's philosophy as false. Then, with the entire assembly, including the children, roaring in laughter, the old professor felt mortified and begged Srila Maharaj for forgiveness. A special meaning of Krishnera Nityadas. I have heard Srila Sant Gosai Maharaj speak his opinion on Sri Chaitanya Dev's teachings to Srila Sanatana Goswami Pad. Jive Sarupahai Krishnera Nityadas, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 20.108. He said, this verse states that the Sarupa, eternal form of the Jiva, is as Krishna's eternal servant. And while this is most certainly true, I would like to interpret it in a slightly different way. From my point of view, the word Krishna here does not mean Krishna who is performing his pastimes in Golok Vrindavan. Instead, I take it to mean Krishna who appears in this world in the form of Guru to deliver sincere souls out of the clutches of Maya and bring them to the lotus feet of Krishna, where they may engage in his loving service. The statement of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami supports my stance. Guru Rupe Krishna Kripa Korena Bhakta Gane, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela 1.45. In his form as Guru, Krishna distributes his mercy to the devotees. Therefore, it is not incorrect to say, Jive Sarupahe Gurur Nityadas. Why I have accepted this point of view? Because since time immemorial, I have wandered about the universe in different forms, accepting bodies of the different 8.4 million species, and only in this lifetime has Krishna manifested himself in front of me as Shri Guru to bless me with everything. Thus, I consider that form, his form as Shri Guru, to be eternally worshipful. When I was preaching in Rangoon, I wrote an article titled Bhritter Parichay, the identity of a servant, in which I included a poem of mine that expressed the following. The glory of the service to Shri Guru Pad Padma exceeds that of the service to Shri Krishna. Why? While it is true that the Jiva is constitutionally an eternal servant of Shri Krishna, the conditioned soul has forgotten his relationship due to his aversion to him since time immemorial. Shri Shri Gurudev is the giver of Sambandha Gyan, knowledge of one's eternal relationship with Bhagwan. As one engages everything, body, mind and words in serving him, he becomes Guru Devatma, one in spirit with Shri Gurudev. Then by Shri Gurudev's mercy, the practitioner gradually realizes the purport of the teaching from Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela 1.45. Guru Rupe Krishna Kripa Karena Bhaktagane. In the form of Shri Guru, Krishna bestows his mercy on the devotees. Not to speak of the stage of sadhana bhakti, even in the liberated state, when the soul is situated in its eternal nature, Sarup Siddhi, none of his efforts bear fruit without the guidance of Shri Shri Gurudev. Even in the stage of Vastu Siddhi. Footnote: the stage following Sarup Siddhi, that is characterized by the Jiva's absolute liberation from every last tinge of materiality and complete attainment of his spiritual form, whereby he is granted entrance into the unmanifest pastime of Shri Shri Radha Krishna. This is the Jiva's highest attainment. The Jiva's attainment of Shri Shri Radha Krishna Yugal service is dependent on the guidance of Shri Guru. Therefore, Shri Gurudev is the embodiment of Bhagwan's mercy, and his mercy is not limited to this world alone. It is said, Shri Guru Charana Satya Tahar Sevak Nitya. The lotus feet of Shri Guru are truth, and I am eternally his servant. The relationship of servitude that the disciple established with Shri Guru Pad Padma at the time of Diksha is eternal. Even in the perfected stage, in Shri Krishna's eternal pastimes, this relationship exists in a special form. Thus, in order for the Jiva to realize his position as the eternal servant of Shri Krishna, it is absolutely necessary for him to serve Shri Guru Pad Padma. For this very reason, Srila Rupa Goswami has stated in Shri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Vishrambhrena Guru Sevaya, Sadhu Vartamanu Vartamanam. One ought to render intimate service to Guru and follow the path of the sadhus. Shri Guru is the personification of Shri Bhagwan's mercy. In terms of potency of mercy, Shri Guru and Shri Bhagwan are one. Bhagwan possesses all potencies. Among all his potencies, his mercy potency reigns supreme. All other potencies of his are subordinate to this potency. Although Shri Gurudev is not omnipotent, the omnipotent Bhagwan is under his sway due to the power of his prema. Therefore, the mercy of Guru is all in all. After I completed this essay, I gave it to my senior godbrother, Shri Bhakti Sudhir Yachak Maharaj, who then sent it with great delight to Sridham Mayapur, where it eventually reached the lotus hands of Srila Prabhupada. Once Srila Prabhupada read it, he gave it to Shri Pranavananda Brahmachari to read and said, "What Radharaman has written is correct. It is matter of great delight that he has gained such spiritual insight at his young age. His conclusions in this essay are perfect and factual, and it should be published in our magazine, Dainik Nadya Prakash, for all to read." Later, Srila Prabhupada personally sent me a letter conveying his blessings to me. Vaishnavas like Srila Sant Gosvāmī Mahārāja and many other disciples of Srila Prabhupada are Mahan Vibhutis, great personalities. Their lives, their conduct, their thoughts, their vision, and everything else about them is such that our astonishment at their divine qualities increases the more we hear and speak about them. An affectionate refusal. Being very merciful to me, Srila Sant Gosvāmī Mahārāja gave me the opportunity to serve him in various ways. Once, my Guru Maharaj sent me to Puri along with our Shri Yashoda Jivan Brahmachari, Shri Bhakti Saurabh Acharya Maharaj, whose name was Shri Gauranga Prasad Brahmachari at the time, and others for the important work of acquiring the property of Srila Prabhupada's birth site in Jagannath Puri. While there, we stayed with Srila Sant Goswami Maharaj in a small house he purchased for the purpose of converting it into a mutt. When the time of Rath Yatra festival came, I sent Shri Gaurang Prasad Prabhu to humbly request Srila Sant Goswami Maharaj to allow us to live and stay in a nearby Dharamshala during the upcoming festival, as we expected many of his disciples would be coming to stay with him in a small house. We would return after the festival, but we did not want to impose on Srila Maharaj or his followers. Upon hearing our request, Srila Maharaj affectionately yet firmly replied in a great surprise, "How is it possible that I can accept this? The word 'yes, you can stay somewhere else' can never come from my mouth. Why? Because the work you came here to do, purchasing the property of Srila Prabhupada's birth site, was actually our duty since we are his disciples. While we have not made the slightest endeavor for that, we see that you are very enthusiastically accomplishing this work. Therefore, it is impossible for me to accept your proposal, and I request that although we are unable to provide you with so many facilities, please make any necessary adjustments with the facilities we are capable of providing, so that you can peacefully stay with us. A Vaishnava never considers this place is ours and we can manage everything. Everything should be done according to our desire. Instead, they think, no, this is not our place. This place belongs to the Vaishnavas and we are its members, not its owners. We will cooperate with whoever comes, accommodating them according to the available facilities." Srila Sant Goswami Maharaj later gave me the opportunity to construct a proper mutt at the site of that house. He asked me, "This is such a small place, but my disciples are telling me that you can create a decent plan and layout for the construction of a mutt." I mentioned, "Yes, but because it is small, it cannot be constructed in a rectangular manner. It should be done in a parallel way. The ashram can be on one side and the temple can be on the other side." He replied, "I don't understand parallel construction, rectangular construction or any of these things. Please just do it in such a way that everything will be done properly." After that, I made the plan, inspected everything and oversaw the entire construction process. Extending an invitation to a king on his behalf. Another time, Srila Sant Goswami Maharaj wanted to organize a large festival for the 25th anniversary of a mutt he built in Keshiari in the district of Vardhaman, West Bengal. Although the king of Puri was invited to be a guest of honor at the festival, he declined. Knowing that I had a friendly relationship with the king, Srila Sant Goswami Maharaj sent a letter ordering me to convince the king to attend the function. On Srila Maharaj's order, I visited the king, who said, "I have already told them it is impossible for me to attend." I jokingly replied, "From that sentence, just remove the word 'not' and then it will be possible." The king then explained that although he wanted to attend, he had a prior engagement elsewhere during the same time as the festival. After inquiring further, I came to know that the mutt was on the way to his other engagement. I told him not to worry. I would arrange for his travel and everything if he would agree to visit the mutt for a short while on the way. Hearing this, the king accepted my proposal. I was then able to personally accompany him to Srila Sant Goswami Maharaj mutt for the inauguration festival. That very day, Srila Sant Goswami Maharaj ordered me to speak Harikatha. I chose to explain the need for a Gaudiya mutt in Keshiari, a place known for its abundance of temples. I explained that despite the town's many temples, there was in fact a dire need for a Gaudiya mutt, because even if people had the opportunity to visit every one of those temples, their hearts would never change. The mutt, however, is a place where people can make their lives successful by smearing the foot dust of pure devotees all over their bodies. In the mutt, a spiritual teacher is present, and those who want to become real, sincere spiritual students are always welcome to come, learn and practice. The mutt exists for the well-being of such persons, and it provides a great opportunity to its visitors to become fortunate by taking the mercy of the devotees residing there. In the association of such sadhus, learning the true, deep meanings of the Shastras is inevitable. Afterward, Srila Sant Goswami Maharaj mentioned to me, "The devotees greatly appreciated your presentation and would like you to stay with them for as long as your schedule allows." Humbly recognizing his position as a servant of our Guru Varga. During our time together in Keshiari, Srila Sant Goswami Maharaj and I received the opportunity to visit the appearance place of Sri Rasikanand Dev, a disciple of Sri Shyamanand Prabhu. The devotee there wanted to offer pranami to Srila Sant Goswami Maharaj, but he flatly refused, saying, "This is the place of our Guru Varga. How can I accept pranami here?" Instead of accepting the devotees' pranami, he offered pranami to them. Following his instruction, despite my embarrassment, by the mercy of Srila Sant Goswami Maharaj, I was able to render various services to him. As a result of these services, he became pleased with me. Our relationship deepened, and his affection for me became so strong that whenever we stayed in the same place, he never allowed me to take prasad without him or to stay anywhere other than his room. During festivals or any other functions where my Guru Maharaj or his godbrothers were present, I always sat on the ground while they sat on the dais. But once, Srila Sant Goswami Maharaj ordered me to join them on the stage. Being embarrassed to sit on the same level as my Guru Varga, I declined. But my Guru Maharaj told me, "Because Pujyapad Sant Maharaj has given the order, you must sit with us. Do not say no." He was the first disciple of Srila Prabhupada to ask me to sit on the dais. From then on, I began to sit on the stage. I never did so before that. Appreciating a beloved godbrother, Srila Bhakti Kumuda Sant Goswami Maharaj once spoke the following on the appearance day of Śrī Śrīmad Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj. Two of our most worshipful Vaishnavas, Shri Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj and Shri Bhakti Hriday Van Goswami Maharaj, mercifully brought this unworthy soul to the proximity of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, whereby I attained the shelter of His lotus feet. It is impossible for me to repay the infinite compassion they showed me. All I can do is express to them my most sincere gratitude that I have able to adhere to this path of bhakti even at the age of 84 is possible only because of Sripad Puri Maharaj's continuous guidance, and I am deeply indebted to him for this. Srila Puri Maharaj is extremely well educated and well versed in scripture. Learned men are plentiful, but a truly knowledgeable man is rare. The knowledge he imparts is not merely bookish, nor should it be considered speculative reasoning. Rather, it is most relishable and enlightening, simply because it is transcendently beautiful and divine in nature. By the grace of his Gurudev, the divine qualities of a bona fide Acharya were already evident in his activities from the outset of his spiritual pursuits. Although he was always grave in his dealings, he never disregarded anybody. He never cheated anyone, nor was he ever dishonest. His exemplary life and conduct can be aptly described through the following verse of the Mundak Upanishad. Tad Vijnanam Artham Sa Gurum Ivabhigached Smit Pani Shrotyam Brahmanishtam. This means that in order to obtain Bhagavad Bhakti, one should humbly approach a spiritual master who is well versed in that science and offer to him his body, mind and speech. In other words, he should completely surrender to Shri Guru. I considered myself Shri Puri Maharaj's younger godbrother, and he is also my Shiksha Guru from whom I have learned the subtleties of the Vedic scriptures. A few of his teachings. The following are a few of Srila Sant Goswami Maharaj's teachings that left an indelible impression on my heart. In order to taste Bhakti Ras, two components are indispensable: a reliable speaker and a sincerely inquisitive listener. Our inability to experience this Ras is solely due to an absence of either of these two requirements. Such genuine transcendental experience can never be achieved through a mere act of imitation. Shri Guru is an ocean of mercy, whereas the material world is an ocean of birth and death. The only means to cross over this woeful ocean is to surrender exclusively to the lotus feet of the spiritual master. Shri Guru has no occupation other than performing Bhagavad Bhakti, and by the infinite grace of his preceptor, he is well versed in every aspect of transcendental realm. Having already obtained the mercy of his predecessor Acharyas, he too possesses all the qualities of a true Acharya. Thus, Shri Guru is qualified to bestow blessings on others and deliver the fallen souls. If we deeply consider the principle of Shri Guru, we find that the root words Gu and Ru in Sanskrit means darkness and that which destroys or eliminates, respectively. Therefore, it is evident that one who is incapable of removing the darkness of ignorance from the hearts of the living entities cannot be considered a true Guru. Living our lives in this material world is difficult and dangerous, like walking on a sharp edge of a razor. Every step gives rise to sorrow and pain. Moreover, to be bereft of spiritual knowledge is the source of great misery. It is impossible to realize the absolute truth through parrot-like preaching or the pursuits of speculative knowledge. The purports of the Vedic scriptures are revealed through the medium of Shri Guru only to the surrendered bhaktas, who serves the spiritual master with the same completely pure and unalloyed devotion with which they serve Bhagwan. Real education begins when one's capacity to learn is directed towards serving Shri Hari. Many individuals study scriptures merely to exhibit their half-baked knowledge, but such ambition is strictly forbidden. True knowledge is that which inspires one to seek the service of Bhagwan.